Okay. 4.1. We're going to start with some postulates on 4.1. Okay?
These are for Abby Brown.
Yep.
He knows.
Oh, I will take these and I'll get them to her. Okay, so 4.1, parallel and perpendicular lines, okay? You have a parallel postulate and a perpendicular postulate.
Oh wait, here's a.
The parallel postulate says, okay, parallel postulate says, given a point not on a line, there exists only one line that passes through that point and is parallel to the first line. Given a point not on a line, so if I have a line, all my markers are done. If I have a line like this, and I have a point right here, the parallel postulate allows me to draw a line through this point that is parallel to that line. That's what it's saying. Given a point not on a line, there exists only one line that passes through that point and is parallel to the first line. That is what it is saying, okay? So then you have a perpendicular postulate, okay? Perpendicular postulate says, given a point not on a line, there exists only one line that passes through the point that is perpendicular to the first line. So here's a line, here's a point. There's exactly one line that passes through that point that is perpendicular to that line. Okay, we're gonna need to use that probably tonight when we do some of our proofs. What, I mean,
I'm gonna ask their postulates and theorems, then I read it.
we are going to do lots of proofs in chapter 4.
Great.
They will
The
not be,
paragraph proofs I liked.
Yeah, I feel like those were easier, because you could just like,
flow,
yeah.
depends how you think. But they can be easier to people.
I like the. I like the not paragraph.
Me too. I'm not a flowy person, I like order.
I like orders.
Okay, so there are 2 postulates so far, okay? Does anybody know what the word coplanar means?
Is it like two planes that are coexisting together?
Basically, yes.
Yeah,
Two coplanar lines, okay, or 2 coplanar planes, okay, are lines or planes that never intersect. They're parallel to each other. So if something's coplanar, it's parallel to each other. If I have coplanar lines, that means they're parallel lines. If I have coplanar planes, that means the planes are parallel to each other. Okay? Who knows what skew lines are?
I've heard of it.
Heard of
Lines
it.
that are skewing each other. Yeah.
Lines that are not in the same plane and they never intersect. If you have skew lines, that means they're not in the same plane and they will not intersect.
Do we need to write these down?
From
Parallel. Where will we find those? In the textbook?
page 149.
Parallel be skew?
They can be if they're in separate planes. They have to both be in separate planes and not intersect. Does that make sense? S-K-E-W. Skew lines are 2 lines that are not in the same plane.
You said 14.
That are not in the same plane and never intersect. Thanks, Ash, you can go. Okay,
Wait. Classes
guys. There doesn't need to be extra stuff going on.
You can just do a pencil.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Okay, couple more postulates and theorems. There's a corresponding angles postulate, If a transversal intersects parallel lines, then all the corresponding angles and vertical angles are congruent. So if you have a set of parallel lines, okay, and you have a transversal would be something that cuts through both of those, okay? If you have 2 parallel lines with a transversal, okay, then it's saying that that intersect parallel lines, then the corresponding angles and vertical angles are congruent. Okay, tell me. A, B, C, D, E, tell me what are all the, give me a pair of vertical angles.
A and D,
A and D, what else?
E and H,
E and H, what else?
F,
F and G,
B,
G and
C.
B.
B and C, okay? What does it mean when it says corresponding angles? You told me what vertical are, what are corresponding angles?
Wait, is that the same as,
Is it
What's
the
a
same?
transversal?
Chloe, I just said that. Transversal is the line that cuts through two parallel lines. It's called a transversal. What are corresponding angles?
I'm not corresponding.
What are corresponding angles?
Lines of angles that correspond.
like E and F?
You say E and F? Those aren't corresponding,
E and
because
A?
it says that corresponding angles and vertical angles are
wait.
congruent.
E and A,
E and A are corresponding angles,
B
good
and F.
Chloe. What else?
F and B.
I remember.
D and A.
F and D are not corresponding
Wait,
angles.
what? F and B.
F and B, yes. What else?
H and D,
H and D, and what else?
G, C,
G and C, okay?
G and C.
So corresponding means that they're on the same line, or the same side, and what you do is you skip, E, A, like you skip over one, okay? Those are corresponding angles, okay? Alternate interior angles theorem, okay? If it says interior, that means I'm working with the inside, okay? Alternate interior angles theorem, okay? If a transversal, once again, transversal, intersects parallel lines, then all the pairs of alternate interior angles are congruent. Look, these are alternate interior, C and F right here, alternate interior, okay? They're opposite of each other and they're on the inside of the two parallel lines. E and D are alternate interior angles. So on that diagram, A and D are congruent, C and B are congruent. If you know these rules, which you're going to need to memorize them as soon as possible, if you know these rules, you're gonna be able to solve lots of things. Because if they gave me one angle in this, on that top picture, if they gave me angle A, I can figure every angle out from that. Okay? So that's why we need to know these things. Okay, give you a couple seconds. Then we're going to go to the next one.
this is on Amsco, right, so I don't.
It is.
I can copy down those.
Correct.
Okay.
It's also in your book, starting on page 149, this whole section. We're gonna do some, I'm going through all the theorems and proofs first, and, or theorems and postulates first, then we're gonna do some proofs at the end of this lesson. Okay, alternate interior angles theorem, that's what that is.
Maybe get you dinner out here. Go to Scotland. Go to
Okay,
Scotland.
boys,
Dude.
boys,
Sorry.
focus. Okay, alternate exterior angles theorem. This means the angles on the outside of the two parallel lines with the transversal. Alternate exterior angles theorem. If a transversal intersects parallel lines, then all the pairs of alternate exterior angles are congruent. So in this case, A and D, B and C. Up here, what would be congruent? Up on my board, what would be
A
congruent?
and H.
What'd you say?
A and, oh wait, not H. A
Oh
and
yeah,
H.
no, you're right, A and H.
Oh, I am right, never
They're
mind.
what?
BG.
And BG.
Oh yeah.
I just doubted
Oh.
myself.
C and
I can copy these down later, right?
Oh.
C and F, I didn't ask what would be alt interior.
I just put
I
opposite
know,
of AI.
interior, alternate interior angles was the last one. The next one is consecutive interior, that's different.
Nice.
Okay, so the alternate exterior are congruent, A and H, G and B. Alternate interior are congruent, C and F, E and D. Now, consecutive interior angles, that means that they are on the same side and they're back to back. C, E, D, F, those are consecutive, A, C, B, D. Your consecutive angles add to B 180. Okay, why do they add to B 180?
Wait. Because they're complementary. But.
No, they're not complementary. But
that's
why are they supplementary?
Because they equal 180.
That's not a good enough definition. I'm asking, why do you know that those add to be 180?
Because they're on a line.
That's
Good.
it, God made it.
Good, what, Abby?
Do the exterior ones, for consecutive exterior, is that also many?
No, they're congruent
90?
to each other. Listen, there's a difference.
No, when we go to the next thing.
Oh, are you talking about, there are no consecutive,
There-
well, wait a second, okay, just,
Okay,
yeah. You mean consecutive,
exterior.
there aren't, there's not something called consecutive exterior angles. But the exterior angles right here, what do you know about them?
They equal 180.
Yeah, but they're not consecutive because they have that transversal in between them. These are consecutive because there's no line going in between them. Do you see what I'm saying? These, no, these are not consecutive angles. What are those two angles called?
Congruent? No,
No.
they're like flip. You
No.
don't, but like one's on one side, one's on the other
We've
side.
learned this term already.
I don't know that.
Not today.
Supplementary.
No.
Well, yes, but Abby, no, that's not what I'm asking. When two angles
but I should-
share a vertex, which they do here, yes.
I know this. Complement,
And they add to be-
adjacent.
Yeah, those are adjacent angles
Okay,
that
wait.
happen to be supplementary.
Sorry, I was writing stuff down. Ulterior,
Alternate
Yeah, what is-
exterior angles.
Do you know what?
I know how to read. It's just hard to
Alternate
write things
exterior
down.
angles means that the angles that are opposite each other on the outsides are congruent. So A and H are the same measure.
Okay,
And then
and then
you
alternate
put
interior is just
opposite
sending,
of
but
the
it's
axis.
inside the two lines.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm just writing pictures.
Okay. Pictures help on this a
Wait,
lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
wait, hold on, wait, can you
I
go
ain't
back
waiting
for
on
just a
that.
second?
Guys, you can have 30 seconds, hurry up. This is why I told you 9 times probably this year, and your parents at parent-teacher conferences, copy these before you get in this room. I'm not gonna give you enough time to write it word for word.
I just drew.
Or
From where?
learn how to,
How do we know which ones we're gonna use for that day?
what do you mean?
I like to make my notes by date, so.
That's not that's not a possibility here. You're going to use all this all year long.
What?
But I mean like what we learned for that day, so like how would I know which theories we're learning
One
that day?
pocket and then do all my homework, and like the other pocket.
It's a lesson.
Instead of
We do
dividing it.
3.1, and then we do
Like-
3.2.
But I was just saying on
Yeah,
AMSCO, it doesn't show that.
Right, just print them off and then you can just put it where it's at, say lesson 3.1.
Wait, this is on ANSCO? Oh my
And then
goodness.
lesson 3.2 when we get to a new one. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
So, here are a bunch of terms. Coplanar, coplanar, lines that never intersect, or planes that never intersect. Coplanar, lines that never intersect. Transversal, we've kind of already talked about all these things, okay? A line that intersects two other lines. So, a line that intersects two other lines is called the transversal. Alternate interior angles, they're inside parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. Alternate exterior angles are outside of the parallel lines on the opposite side of the transversal. And consecutive interior angles are angles on the same side of the transversal and between the lines. I'll give you a couple minutes, but that is everything that we just did in those postulates or theorems that I showed.
Can we take a picture of this? Oh, we haven't.
Right.
I'm so tired. I'm thinking that
Okay, so that is everything we just discussed in those pictures, okay? Just a different way, this time it's just straight up words instead of pictures. Personally, I think the pictures help.
Yeah, they're definitely good.
Days are less good.
Okay. And then we're gonna have 3 problems next. We're gonna do some proofs. We are going to work some proofs out. Oh, yeah. Well, the first one's not gonna be a proof, but I'm gonna read you a problem, and we're gonna go off of it.
In my study hall, there are people who are in regular geometry, and
Mhm.
they always ask me for help on their stuff. And so they're taking their chapter 2 test soon, and they're like, what's the next lesson like? I was like, it's all words, and you guys get to do proofs, so have fun. But I
They're
don't-
gonna get pretty far behind us soon.
They already are pretty hard.
Yeah, they should only be one chapter
How they get
behind
that
us.
far back?
They spend more than a day on the lesson.
They struggle.
Wait, how does one more than
I'm I should be in that
My
class.
entire time that I've been
We
at
struggle-
high
I
school,
would
I've
fit
never
in
spent
there.
more than a
We
day in a
struggle
lesson.
faster than they
We
do.
struggle,
Yeah.
we're like, yeah, we have to.
You struggle, but your struggle is different because you think you're struggling, but you have A's and B's, which is still
Exactly.
like 4.0 or higher.
Can you tell them, Mom?
Can you please tell my mother that?
I don't have to say happy
I don't
birthday,
like,
Mom,
I don't like different letters on my, report
Copy,
card. I like
let's
all
talk,
of
Chloe, more work.
I think that if
Oh,
more
you have
people were
a
just
mock
in on
grade.
his classes, that they would just do better. They just don't think they're smart, so they don't try in regular
Agreed.
classes.
I agree.
So if people are in honors class, I think they'd just do better.
No, people do
Well, some
try, they
people.
just don't try.
Like, some people got a
Okay,
77.
I'm gonna give you about 40 more seconds. Then we're moving on to some problems.
There were 26 and 27. Those are the lowest grades. And if you would have just guessed, you would have gotten a 25.
Yeah.
Because it was 4. So, I don't understand. That's just useful.
What didn't you understand?
People got
biology
E's.
test, people got 26.
Do you
The
ever
lowest
use
grade was actually
quadratics
27.
formula?
Yes, and here you go.
Wait, what's
You'll also
that?
have to use midpoint formula later, and you'll have to use.
We already did
Oh, I
this
see.
Oh,
Point
okay.
slope, I
Two,
think,
and-
at some point.
Okay, I should do the last one.
Actually,
Hey.
if you have a 2A.
Hey, refocus.
On the say.
I don't even know.
Okay,
Even after all this time. I still
we're gonna
don't
talk
know.
about this, okay?
I think.
If, okay, a pair of corresponding angles, do you see how I made them corresponding, A and H, okay? A pair of corresponding angles created by a transversal on two lines have measures described by the expressions 2x plus 3 and 3x minus 11, okay? The lines must be what?
Parallel.
Well,
I need to see things. I don't know hear this.
why would they be parallel?
Because they're parallel to each other.
How do you know that?
Because they're parallel.
They're never intersected, they'll never
They don't
intersect,
intersect.
ever.
You don't know that they're parallel for sure, they're not marked parallel, you have to give me your
Is that
reason.
because the transversal?
Because what?
The transversal.
No, it's something else I said in that sentence.
Is
A pair of, here, I'll reread it.
It's a line that cuts through two parallel lines.
Well, a transversal is a line that intersects two other lines, is the technical definition, two other lines, so we don't know the parallel off that. But let me reread this to you. A pair of corresponding angles created by a transversal on two lines have measures described by,
Because they're corresponding.
because they're corresponding. If they're corresponding, I know that those lines have to be
Parallel.
parallel.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, now, let's say that x is 14. How can you figure out what angle A or angle H is?
Plug.
Sorry, say it again.
Okay.
I wanna figure out what angle A or angle H is, and I know that x is 14.
Oh,
So let's prove that it's actually right. What's 14 plugged into 2x plus 3? 31. What's 14 plugged into 3x minus 11? So, therefore, they're parallel, okay?
Well, that's cool.
That's an easy one.
it's
Here we go. What is the measure of angle H? And you have to use a proof. Okay, do you see those little triangles on those lines? Do you know what those stand for?
Angle.
No.
Triangle.
180. 180.
Stop guessing.
Where are we at?
Wait,
Do you
doesn't
see the triangles between angle A, B, and E, F,
it
right?
means it's what-
That means they're parallel. That's the symbol for parallel. If two
Oh.
lines are parallel and it's in a diagram marked, they're going to have little triangles like this. Okay? That means that they're parallel to each other. That's the symbol in geometry. Okay? So not only are we learning vocab, we're learning signs also. Okay? So when they're like that, that means I can use that in a proof. Because I can say, oh, it's a given, the diagram. You get what I'm saying here? Okay?
Given
Remember
what?
how we have to prove stuff with the diagram as well?
What would you call it?
Okay, so what is the measure of angle H? Let's set up a proof. What do you have to do always?
Start with the given.
Given, so what is my given?
A equals 42 degrees. A
Good,
is
measure
34.
of angle A. When you are doing angles and they have a measure, you have to write it measure of angle A.
And A.
If you don't put that M there, it's not right. The measure of angle A is 42,
And
because it's given, right?
yes.
Okay.
A and H are equal.
Well,
According to the, let me find the theorem. According to the perpendicular.
you're wrong.
according to the signs.
Oh,
your
no, no, it'd be A
triangle-
and G, you're right.
Good, so you wanna say angle A is congruent, it's not, okay, to angle G, why?
Because of the perpendicular postulate? Or is it the corresponding angles postulate?
Well, I don't
It's
know, I'm
the-
asking you guys.
It's the exterior theorem,
Exterior what?
angles theorem.
Alternate
Congruent is just
exterior.
a Spanish.
I don't have those
equal.
ones written down.
Alternate exterior angles theorem, right?
Yep.
A-E,
Alternate exterior
I put A-E.
angles.
Wait,
theorem.
Miss Peters,
What?
how would we write down that those lines are parallel?
Congruent is
for-
just a Spanish equal.
So they're
You don't-
Are
congruent.
they given?
Congruent is
You
just-
can write it in your given, yes, how do you know that they're parallel?
Because of the triangle.
Okay, so let's just name this, line M and line N. M is parallel to N, why?
Because of,
Given?
Yep, just the
Would that go
diagram.
before the thing?
It can go before, you can do givens later on too, as long
wait, is
as
that the
you,
sign for? The L's?
that's the sign for
They didn't make
parallel.
up their mind, they have too many signs.
Well, it depends what it's on, if it's in a sentence or if it's on a picture, it depends what one it is. Guys, take a deep breath, get over it.
I need to go take a
The signs make it actually easier in the long run, just trust me. Okay, so now you know that, okay? The measure of angle A is equal to 42 given. This needs to, yes, technically go before that. The M is parallel to N given. Then I can say angle A is congruent to angle G, alternate exterior angles theorem. Now what? We gotta somehow tell what the measure of angle H is. So at some point, we've got to get an equation in here so we can start substituting things in, right?
42 plus X
Nope.
equals A plus B equals 180.
Great, but I don't care that A plus B equals 180.
A plus G equals 180.
Wait,
No, it
A
doesn't.
plus B
Maybe
equals
it's-
180?
A plus,
A plus B is 180
H
because
plus
it's
C
on a
equals
line.
180.
what?
Guys,
H
that's
plus
plus
B
great,
equals
listen,
138.
listen to what I'm saying, time out. Before you think and just start saying stuff. You are technically saying correct stuff. That gets me nowhere close to figuring out what H is though. What can get me to figure out what H is?
Finding out what D
What,
is?
what G is, what G is.
If I figure out what G is, right, which we know, because we've already listed that A and G are what?
Oh,
Which
oh,
means I have to do what with that?
G is equal to
subtract it from
A.
180.
G is equal to
Adjacent
42.
angles, two angles that share a common
Subtract.
Stop,
A equals 138.
stop, 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 stop. You're not answering the one question I'm asking, okay? Listen to my question before you speak and comprehend and process, okay? We know that an H and G equal 180, okay, which we're gonna get to eventually, we'll put that in here. But before we even get to that, what do I know about G and A? They are what?
Congruent.
Which means what about G?
That it equals
42.
42.
That's what I asked you,
So it's-
that's all I was looking for.
Oh.
But how do you do that? How do you say G is 42? What?
Why did you say that it was a given? Because
It's not a given.
sorry, A is congruent to G, and A equals 42, then 42 equals G.
Right, but why?
Because of the alternate exterior.
No.
I don't
Is
know.
it the
Not congruent.
perpendicular?
Stop.
Corresponding or
Stop, stop. It's
congruent
very,
exterior?
no, stop. It's very simple. You've already listed 3 steps. 42, parallel, you told me they're congruent. Now, what do I need to do with 42?
Put it,
Thank you, Courtney.
I said that out
So
loud.
the measure of angle
I just
G,
said
That's a good way.
you didn't say substitution.
I just said 42.
Substitution, okay? Now, from there, what did you tell me, Daniel, about H and G?
You have to subtract the G.
Nope,
from
I
the-
didn't say-
I don't remember what I said.
Do stuff. I said, what did you tell me about H and G? They
Yeah.
equal 180. So how do I show that?
42 plus X.
No.
The,
You cannot
Thank you.
substitute in prior to creating the
I forget
equation.
what that is called, but there's a name for the thing.
Look, I'm not mad at you. I'm just telling you.
Oh.
I want you guys to get this stuff in your heads.
I thought you were mad.
No. Abby, listen to what I just told Chloe. You cannot substitute in before you give me an
I'm trying to
equation.
give you an
Isn't there
equation.
like a theorem there?
G plus H equals 180.
Great, what is that called?
The
substitution.
It's what?
Linear or something?
Something like that. So the measure of angle G plus the measure of angle H
Linear
equals
pair.
180, what?
Linear pair.
Thank you.
Oh, you said that, I didn't hear.
Guys, do you see what I am saying here? You have to think step by step for me, okay? You cannot skip ahead. I know it's frustrating, I know you're gonna get angry about it,
Oh, it's very.
okay?
I'm already
Now, Abby and Chloe, what are we gonna do?
Cry.
42 plus x is 180.
Good. So then we're gonna say 42 plus the measure of angle H equals 180. What did I just do?
Chloe.
What is that called?
More substitution.
More substitution. Okay, now what do I need to do?
You need to do, yeah, 40.
What is that called? It's not simplifying.
Additive.
Additive property.
Quality.
Good. So the measure of angle H equals what? What's 180 minus 42?
138. What Courtney said.
So it's the additive property, right?
Yes.
Of equality.
Now you are done.
Wait.
Sweet.
Whatever.
Okay? Now you are done. Okay? There's another way you can do it too. Okay, let me talk you through this, because it's a little faster. Okay? So you know from the diagram that the measure of angle A equals 42. Okay, given. You can say the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle D equals 180. A and D, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because they are linear angles, or a linear pair, okay? Then I can say 42 plus D equals 180, yes?
Yes.
Then I can say D equals 138, yes?
Yes.
And then H,
H equals 138.
stop. D equals 138, and D equals H, why?
Oh, so I thought you were.
Because what type of angles are D and H?
They are, let me find it,
Congruent.
Yep,
Corresponding angles.
corresponding angles.
Angles.
So there's more than one way to do this. Do you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so on your homework, once again, there's gonna be more than one way to do this. So if it doesn't match exactly what the book says, that could be okay. But listen, you have to list everything, and you can't just plug in numbers without a full equation. Okay?
Does it matter which way we do it on our homework?
What do you mean?
Like paragraph or deck?
Yes, I want you to do it this way right now.
Okay, that's fine.
This is the way that you're gonna do it 95% of the time. Okay, what is the measure of angle E? We have another one. Measure of angle E.
Okay, so.
Not exactly, you're gonna use different rules.
Let's say
okay,
35%.
E,
It says 35
so D
degrees.
equals 35 degrees.
Okay,
So, if E equals 35 degrees.
measure of angle D equals 35, right?
Yeah, then D and A equal 180. That's, oh wait, sorry, that's a given. And then D and A equal 180 because they're on the line. And then,
There's actually, okay, let's do it a different way than that. I want you to solve a different way. I'm thinking of something specific right now.
I was gonna ask about a triangle between A and B and line.
Yeah,
Okay.
and between H and G, which means what?
oh, they're parallel.
So we're gonna say that, we'll just make these lines again. So M is parallel to N given, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's do it this way. I want you to solve this by using vertical angles first.
I don't remember how to do
So what does that mean?
means.
Well, what are vertical angles? What's a vertical angle up there?
When
It shows one side.
What,
and
Caleb?
one-
ABCD. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, angle.
The theorem?
No.
Vision fast.
Oh,
Check
sure.
plus.
Wait 1 second.
Then just like when it's like that.
What, yes, but I need to know, name two specific vertical angles.
Angle A.
Angle A and C, but that doesn't have a measurement, so let's throw that out.
D and B.
D and B, so how can I use that to start to solve?
If two angles are
Angle D equals angle
then
B.
they are congruent.
Okay, so I
Oh,
can
so
say,
B equals.
I can say angle D equals angle B, why?
Because they share one
The
side of
vertical
vertex.
angle-
They're vertical angles theorem. Okay,
Well,
see how we're gonna solve this different?
What's the vertical angles theorem?
It says that these angles are congruent.
Okay.
Okay, now, if I know B
Angle B
and D equal, then what can I do?
Angle B equals angle 35 degrees.
Measure of angle B equals 35 degrees, why?
Because vertical angle.
No.
Substitution.
Substitution. It's substitution at that point. Now, From there, if I'm trying to get E, what do I need to do? What do you know about B and E?
Oh, the interior, alternate, or
Alternate,
consecutive and interior
The
angles.
consecutive, they're consecutive, they're not alternate, alternate is B and H. Consecutive interior angles. So I can say the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle E equals 180 because they are
Consecutive
interior angle.
interior angles. Do you see how you can solve this several different ways?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I'm doing it another way for you.
But on a, will we be able to solve it the other way?
You can solve it any way unless it specifically tells you go through this method. Like I just said, we're gonna use vertical angles to get there.
So this is called a vertical.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
Okay, now what do I do?
Substitution.
Substitution. So 35 plus the measure of angle E equals 180. That was substitution. And then I do the measure of angle E equals what?
Additive.
145. And it's additive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you do it again.
No,
Again,
I'm done.
again.
You don't have to, remember that one time when you said you need to write again as the answer? Remember that one time you said that?
Oh, like proof.
Yeah.
You can leave it on this one, you're fine.
That's
Okay.
every- on time.
That's what you're doing. So your homework is going to have lots of proofs on it. Abby, will you stop that, please?
I would love to do that.
Thank you. So,
Bye, guys.